everything's okay. So we'll start in a comfortable seat. Just find a comfortable place to sit, and that could be on the floor. You might have a cushion. You could even sit on a chair or the couch if that would be more comfortable for you. We'll just spend a couple minutes just quickly sort of checking in and getting a handle on our breathing, and then we'll just take it into more of a movement practice. So take a moment there just to settle yourself into your seat. And that might mean that you wiggle your seat around a little bit so you can actually feel the bones on your bum and how they're pushing down into the ground or the cushion or the chair that you're sitting on. And just take a moment to really kind of nestle into your seat so that you feel the support of whatever it is you're on. And you might do the same thing with your hands. If they're on your body, you might ground them down into your legs or onto the seat or floor next to you. And just those simple actions of grounding sometimes help us to settle if we're feeling a bit scattered or not very present. And then from that feeling of pushing down, see if you can then lift right up through your spine. So maybe the top of your head feels like it got a little closer to the ceiling. And then with your eyes, we can use our eyes as a way to help us to focus and be present as well. So if you notice that your eyes are needing to move around the space, allow that to happen. Allow your eyes to move around. And then after they've done that movement, perhaps they can then settle as well. So maybe there's a spot in front of you that you can look at, or maybe it feels safe to close your eyes. And just that simple settling of your eyes, the way you're using your eyes, it can really help us to show our mind and our body that we're turning our focus to ourselves now. So not so much about the outside world and more about what's happening for you right now. So notice how you feel as you do that. Notice if your body's uncomfortable, where it's uncomfortable, if there's some tension, where in your body that is. And just notice what's on your mind. If you feel busy with your thinking, if there are a lot of thoughts, if they feel scattered, if there's one thing that's kind of heavily resting or weighing on your mind. Kind of the quality of your thinking. There's no wrong answer. We're just kind of getting in touch with how we are right now. And then finally, notice if you have any emotions that kind of come bubbling up to the surface when you get quiet. And then we'll shift that focus to the breath. So we're just noticing our natural breathing pattern right now. So how is your breath right now? Is it quick? Is it slow? Is it shallow? Is it deep? Does it move freely? Does it sort of get staggered or cut? Does it catch somewhere? Oftentimes our breath can be a really clear indicator of how we're doing. So if you do notice that your breath is difficult or labored or quite shallow, maybe recognizing perhaps the presence of some stress, tension in your life. So what we're going to do now is spend the next sort of 30 seconds or so just balancing out our breath. And all we're doing is counting on the inhale to 4 and on the exhale to 4. I'll let you make your own count, and it might be quicker than mine, it might be slower than mine. So basically what we're doing is inhaling, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhaling, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. However, your count might be different from mine. So as you're ready, just a few cycles of breath like that, evening out the breath. It might create a slightly slower or deeper breath. And as you're doing that, notice if that's difficult. Notice if your breath feels hard to manage today, hard to get a hold of, and that's okay. You don't have to stress over the breathing. If it feels difficult, maybe just pay attention to it without needing to count it or make it precise. Good. And then we'll begin with some gentle movement here, focusing just on the neck first. From your grounded seat, so you're grounded, you're going to lift again, nice and tall, so you're sitting up with some dignity, and then your chin's going to drop to your chest. Noticing what you feel in your neck, your spine, maybe even down towards your low back or your hips. And then begin to lift your chin up, taking it perhaps past the center. That hurts your neck, just keep it more level. If it feels okay, lifting the chin up, opening up the front of your neck and noticing any stretch there. And then taking your head back so that your chin comes back down to your chest, and then allow your head to kind of move around in any way that you'd like, addressing whatever discomfort you have in your neck. And that could be a rolling of the neck, that might be a shaking of the head, yes and no. Just get spontaneous there, just working on releasing what bits of tension you can here initially from the neck, maybe even up into your jaw, noticing if your jaw feels clenched tight and wiggling around the hinges of your jaw. Good. We'll bring the head back to center, lifting the chin up. And let's take the shoulders and lift them right up next to the ears and keep them there for a minute. Take an inhalation, hold that breath in, and notice what it feels like to be really tense in your shoulders with your breath held in. And then exhale, release the shoulders down, and pause at the end of your exhale and just notice how that feels. So the difference between tension and release. One more time, inhale, hold that inhalation in as you hold your shoulders up and feel what that's like to be tense, probably a little bit uncomfortable. Exhale and release the shoulders back down as you exhale your breath out, and just notice what that feels like. So we'll begin to move a little bit more dynamically now, starting by lifting the arms up and overhead. And your arms might be strong and straight, engaged. They might be soft at the joints, completely up to you. There's your inhalation, and we're going to move from there. As you exhale, your left hand drops down and your right arm reaches over your head to a side stretch. And I'm going to move with my breath here. So as I inhale, I'm coming back to the center. And as I exhale, I'm just leaning over the other way. It might be a little, it might be a lot. Inhaling, I'm going to come back to the center. And now I'm going to turn. So I'm turning to the left, placing my left hand behind me, my right hand across on the opposite leg. Inhale to come back to center, and exhale to twist the other way. Good. Well, untwist and come back to center. Let the arms kind of float down and back behind you so that your fingertips touch the floor or the seat if you're on a seat behind you. And you can ground your fingertips, ground your seat, and see if you can lift right up from your belly, up the front of your spine. Your chest lifts a little. And again, if it doesn't hurt your chin, maybe your chin lifts. Your shoulders draw back to open and create space in the front of your body. If that feels too wide open, a little bit too vulnerable, let your shoulders come forward again. Let your hands slide forward. One more inhalation. And as you exhale, bring the hands forward. They might rest on your legs or they might come to the floor if you're on the floor in front of you. Let your head drop and just tune into what you feel, if anything, in your back body. So we're coming into a seated forward bend. Just make it work for you. Doesn't matter what it looks like. You just want to feel sensation in perhaps your low back, your spine, your hips. If you're sitting with your legs out in front of you, you might feel it in your hamstrings. So adjust the position of your hands according to what you're feeling. They might need to slide forward in order to get some sensation. They might need to back up because there's too much sensation. Maybe the weight of your head drops towards the floor. Feel free to move the head around if your neck feels tense or sore. We'll have 2 more breaths here, just noticing what this is like in your body to stretch into your back, bringing the breath there, creating some space there. And then from wherever you are, tuck your chin towards your chest and just begin to gently roll yourself up, back up to a seat. And if you are cross-legged as I am, we're just going to switch the legs so the other foot or shin comes in front. We're going to do that same sequence again. So we start by inhaling, lifting up through both arms. This time we'll take the right hand to the floor or the seat. As you exhale, reach over to open your side body. Inhale, take it up to the center. See if you can get these movements to work in sync with your breathing. Coming back up to the center as you inhale, and now we twist, turning to your right. Feel how that is in your spine, your neck, your shoulders and chest. Inhaling back to the center. Exhale, we'll twist the other way. Notice if you can sense a difference from side to side. Inhaling back to center. Again, the arms float down in a big circle and touch the floor behind you or the seat behind you so you can ground through your fingers. Lift through the front of your spine, your chest. Maybe your shoulders can draw back a bit, noticing how that is to open up, broaden across the front body, taking the breath into throat, the top of your chest, the fronts of your shoulders. One more breath. Good, and then we'll release that, taking the hands around in front, so finding your forward bend now. If you are quite sore in the low back, that could be as simple as dropping your chin to your chest. If you're not feeling much there, the hands could slide down the legs or onto the floor in front of you until you're met with some sensation in your body that's not pain, but a feeling of release, perhaps a stretch in the back body, the spine, the low back, the hips, or the hamstrings. Staying present with whatever you're feeling. If it's pain, you're coming out of that shape. And if you're uncomfortable, ask yourself, can I stay here for 2 more breaths? Listen to what your body responds and honor that response. If the body says no, then come out of the shape. And then we're going to tuck the chin and again roll ourselves up all the way up to sit. And then we're going to shift. We're going to come off of our seat. So if you are sitting on a chair, I'll just invite you to come down to the floor now. And we're going to come into a tabletop position. So you're setting up here with your hands under your shoulders and your knees under your hips. And if that's uncomfortable in your wrists, if you have some pain in the wrist, you could always be on your elbows. So you're setting your body up to show it that you care. If there's pain somewhere, look after yourself. If that hurts your knees, you might put a blanket or a pillow under your knees. So letting our bodies know that we care in the way that we place them, in the way that we move them. We're not pushing, we're not muscling. We're going to move through cat and cow now. If you're familiar with it and you'd like to just go at your own pace, please feel free. Otherwise, I'll just instruct it nice and slowly. So as we inhale, we're coming into a little bit of a back bend in our spine. So we're going to lift the tailbone, let the belly drop down, and let the shoulders draw back. Your chest might lift a little bit, your chin might lift a little bit. As you exhale, you're going to draw your tailbone under and allow the whole back to round. Your head might drop down. You could look towards your own knees. So those are the 2 movements that we're linking up with our breathing. As we inhale, we're rolling the spine into this back bend, or what we call cow pose. And as we exhale, we're curling the spine up into cat pose. So back and forth like that, and just noticing how it's feeling in your spine to move in this way, whether there feels to be some restriction in that movement, whether it happens freely. Without judging yourself, notice the way your breath and your movement work or don't work together, what feels natural and what doesn't. One more time through both of those shapes. Good. And then we'll come back to center, more of a neutral spine. We're going to ground through whatever's on the floor, if that's your hands or your elbows, your knees, your shins, and the tops of your feet. We're going to push into them. And at the same time, lift gently at your navel. So as we ground, we generally respond to grounding by finding somewhere else to lift. So here it will be your belly, just a little bit to support your lower back so that you can extend your left leg behind you. And if you do that and feel that that's too much sensation, it's too strong in your low back, you could bring those left toes to the floor. So choosing the option that suits you today. And pausing there, just noticing how your body's working to keep you in that shape. Perhaps you extend the opposite arm in front of you and know that that's just an option and you don't have to take it. Notice if you're holding your breath, and maybe prioritize your breathing as more important than the shapes. Keep the breath flowing. We'll inhale and take the hand and knee back underneath as you exhale. Right into the other side, grounding. Lifting at your center, right leg extends back, toes might be down or up off the ground. Left arm extends forward as an option. Finding the variation that suits you with the arm and leg, just the arm, just the leg. Supporting your lower back by engaging a little bit through your belly so you're not straining those muscles at your low back. One more breath. We'll take the hand and the knee back down, taking the elbows to the floor if they're not already, sliding the knees backwards, coming down to rest on your thighs and your belly. For Sphinx Pose, we situate or place our elbows so that initially you're not feeling pain in your lower back. You might feel some engagement, you might feel the muscles there, but it shouldn't feel like pain. And if there's pain, you're going to slide the elbows forward so that you're not flex so much through your low back. Pushing down into your forearms and hands, lifting gently at the center of your chest. So if you feel like you're slumped down into your shoulders, you're pushing into the elbows and arms to lift any kind of slumping out of the shoulders. Staying soft through your neck, staying soft through your face. If you're feeling a lot of sensation in your low back and you want to support that area even more, you could draw your navel up away from the floor a little bit, giving that part of your body a little more support. And if that's feeling okay, maybe your shoulders can move back a little bit as if you're trying to pull your chest through your arms. One more full breath. Good. We'll slide the hands back under the shoulders so we can push up from there. And then I like to take my knees just about as wide as my yoga mat. My toes come towards each other and I'm sitting my hips back towards my heels. My forehead's coming to rest on the floor. If that doesn't feel accessible, maybe you could stack your hands up and rest your head on your stacked hands or on a pillow or something else. And if that just isn't comfortable in your body to sit in what is called child's pose, please just come to any comfortable position where you can rest for a moment. Tune back into your breathing. Maybe for 2 cycles of breath, you can count again. Inhaling to 4, exhaling to 4. Good. We're going to take the hands back out. Pull yourself back into your table. Bring the knees back underneath the hips. Tucking the toes now behind you. Let's push the hips towards your heels. Strong in your arms. So your hands are spread wide. The arm muscles are engaged. You're pushing firmly into your hands. And at the same time, you're going to look at your knees and lift them up away from the floor. As you do that, notice how that's feeling in the back body. How does that feel through your hamstrings, your spine, your low back? If it's okay and you want to stay there a bit longer, feel free to start to wiggle around. You might paddle your legs. If it's feeling a bit strong, you can always come down out of it, pause for a moment, and then rejoin, coming back up. Making it work for you if you'd like to bend one knee and push the other heel down. We call this downward facing dog, and we'll take another 2 full breaths here. Good. Dropping the knees back to the floor if they are lifted. Inhale from there. If it feels okay, open your mouth and sigh that breath out, making some sound. Good. We're going to flip around and come onto our backs. Lie down on the ground with your knees bent and your arms resting down alongside your body. You're going to bring the heels maybe a little bit closer to your bum, and your feet are about hip distance apart. So we're going to move here in and out of bridge pose. We're going to be taking what's called a moving bridge. So we're lifting the hips on the inhale and lowering them down on the exhale. And then we're going to have the option to add the arms to that movement, but we'll start with just the hips and the pelvis. So your feet are grounding. That's a pushing down through your feet, a real engagement of the feet with the ground. And you'll notice that your leg muscles, as you push your feet into the ground, your leg muscles will feel activated as well, or strong. And with that strength in your legs, you begin then to lift your hips, maybe just slightly off the floor, so a piece of paper could slide underneath. Maybe they lift right up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, we're taking that all back down. So your back comes and touches the floor and just softens for a moment. And then on the next inhale, the feet push down, the legs get active, and you're lifting up into bridge pose. As you exhale, lowering back down. So that's the movement, inhaling to lift, exhaling to lower. You might do it as we were just doing it, or you might then add the arms if you want to work your shoulders a little bit, inhaling, and as you inhale, the arms might circle around and back behind you. And as you exhale, bringing it all back down. A few more of those, taking it at your own pace. If it's feeling a bit strong, that lifting, too much sensation in the spine or the low back, you can certainly keep your hips on the floor and lift the low back away from the floor, creating kind of an arch there. And then as you exhale, pushing the low back down into the floor. Just two more, inhaling and exhaling. One more time, following your breath, noticing the length of each breath and whether you can sync the movement up to that breathing. Good. From there, we're going to take the feet closer together. So they're kind of inner edges of the feet are touching, and slide the arms around and away from the side of your body. Up to shoulder height if that's comfortable, or maybe a little bit closer to the sides of your body. Let your head a couple of times drop from side to side. Just doing that to make sure you're not clenching tight through the muscles of your neck. We're going to lift and shift the hips over to the right and allow your knees to drop over to the left. If your knees don't quite touch the floor, that's okay. They can hover. You could stick a pillow there underneath them to give them something to rest on. And perhaps as your knees go to the left, your gaze turns to the right. Noticing that stretch there through the side body, the rib cage, maybe that top hip, through the shoulders. Notice how it feels to twist here. Take another couple of breaths. See if you can find that counted even breath again. Good. As you're ready, taking the knees to center, taking the chin to center. Feet are right next to each other. We're going to lift and shift the hips over to the left so that your knees can now drop to the right. Maybe your gaze, maybe your head turns to the left if that doesn't hurt your neck. And have a few breaths here, just noticing if you can sense perhaps that one side feels more natural. It's easier to twist one way than the other. What you notice on this side, where you feel a stretch, where you feel the breath. One more breath.
And as you're ready, the knees come back to center, the chin, the head turns back to center. We're going to stretch the legs long and reach the arms behind you, taking a big full body stretch and then holding one wrist to take that into more of a side stretch. And then the other side. And back to center. Keeping your legs flat if that's okay. We're going to reach the arms up above you so you can see your own fingers. Just let your hands rest there for a moment. And then bend your knees one at a time. Bring your feet back to the floor. And then your legs are going to lift as well. And they could be bent or they could be straight. And if you feel like you want the support of your hands on your legs, that's always an option. You could also rest your arms down now if they're starting to tire or become numb or uncomfortable. Otherwise, 3 or 4 breaths here, just taking a gentle inversion so that the blood in the fingers, the hands, the wrists, the feet, ankles, the lower legs reverses its direction. Just for 2 more breaths. 1 more breath. And then gently lowering your limbs to the ground. Pausing, perhaps with the knees bent or the legs straight. Noticing the effects of that inversion that you've just done, how that lands in your body, what it feels like afterwards, any sensations. And then if you're comfortable in the position you're in, you might stay there for our last minute of rest. If you need to shift to find a more comfortable position, one where you feel you can rest, where you're not really holding yourself up so much, you're not using your muscles so much. Your muscles kind of release their hold on the bones and can just kind of soften into the support of the floor or the seat that you're in. Again, let your eyes be soft, so if they are open, perhaps they can softly focus on one point. And then notice your breathing without the need to control it. Just notice how your breath is. You did that at the start, you're doing that at the finish. Do you notice a difference or a change? Giving yourself another few moments there just to rest here, taking in the benefits of this practice. And then slowly allowing your body to wiggle. Maybe your fingers move around, your feet, your ankles might wiggle. Perhaps you're taking a stretch back behind you with your arms or overhead. And then taking your time to find a comfortable seat to finish off the practice. So as you find your comfortable seat, let your eyes again settle softly in one place or close over. Just again, signaling to your mind and body that you're paying attention to your internal world as you finish here. Notice how you are in the same way you did at the start. Notice how your body is. Notice how your mind is. Notice how your heart is. And then placing one hand on the opposite arm or shoulder. Squeezing your own arms, let your chin drop towards your chest as a way of honoring yourself, as a way of telling yourself thank you for creating this space in your day for you,
looking out for yourself, taking care of yourself. Squeezing in, give yourself a hug. And when you're ready, releasing that, let your gaze lift, your eyes reacquaint or reorient to the space you're in. Thanks for joining me today.